Welcome everybody to episode 13. Um, Talking about week 5, coming off of week 5, heading into week 6. We will talk about the game we have overseas in London. Have some expectations heading into that, and of course, a wrap up with the Carolina Panthers game. We'll get into this week's pick'em games. Um, I'll give Ryan a start, bench, and cut little lineup, and then we'll do some player stat trivia as we usually do. But before we get into that, what do we got in the news?
News around the league: Michael Pittman expected to miss multiple games. Spencer Rattler to start for Saints this Sunday while Collar is injured.
Whoa,
Yeah.
did not know
Roberts.
that.
Yeah. Robert Saleh fired as head coach of the Jets. Uh, Drake May to start this Sunday as well, so it looks like most of the rookies are getting out there.
Yeah,
Aiden O'Connell to start over Minshew this week. Nico Collins placed on injury reserve, and Jabril Peppers on commissioner's exempt list following arrest.
yeah, that's a crazy story that kind of popped
Yeah,
up at the beginning of the week there. That happened over the weekend, but there was kind of quiet through the weekend.
yeah. Also, league leaders: Bills at 3-2 lead the AFC West or East. AFC West to the Chiefs at 5-0. Ravens at 3-2 for the North. Texans at 4-1 for the South. And for the NFC, got Commanders 4-1 leading the East. Seahawks 3-2 leading the West. Vikings 5-0 leading the North, and Falcons at 3-2 leading the NFC South.
Awesome. Uh, it's I mean, like we've been saying the whole time, it's been a crazy kind of year so far. So
Yeah,
I think some things happening that we didn't expect. Um, Play as far as team wise, teams being good. And so I didn't know that Carr was injured, huh?
yeah. I think he went out before or right at halftime, pretty much.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
In their last matchup, who did they play?
Was that the Fal? No, it was. I don't remember now. Somebody like the Falcons or something like that.
Yeah. um. Yeah. So that Robert Sala firing, I feel like um, I feel like that's a little bit of a kind of I don't know. It gives me a feeling of inept. I don't know. That's just the feeling I get from kind of
Yeah.
not knowing everything that's going on in their house. But man, in the middle of the season, what benefit does it give you? And I heard a stat that only one interim head coach has ever made the playoffs, and they lost that first game.
Yeah.
Obviously, because most of the time, if you're coming in, you're taking over a crap team, But
Yeah.
still, like, what's the point? Just roll it out, and
Yeah. Especially like it looked like all of the like I saw videos where like Saul left the bus and was like way ahead of any of the players,
yeah,
things like that, and then Rogers swears that it wasn't because of him, and I don't know, it just seems really. Rogers is good at that though. Like I feel like he always is kind of involved in all that crap.
yeah. And then they had that kind of back and forth on the sideline earlier in the season that everyone was kind of speculating. They're like, oh, we're just figuring it out or whatever.
Yeah, and
Um,
I
Not
saw
really figuring it out very good. It didn't seem like.
right.
I mean, not Robert Sala anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't really like that changing. I would. It's 5 games in. What do you know?
yeah.
You know what you're doing is not working, but that's about it.
And honestly, Rogers doesn't have it like he used to, and you can kind of see that. Like, am I wrong
Yeah.
in that? Like, I feel like he doesn't have it.
No, I agree, and I think what they were saying is I heard on NFL Network today they were talking about it and the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett together in Green Bay had a better team than most teams when they lined up across the ball.
Yeah,
So those play calls made it easy. You could kind of run a standard offense. Well, now you don't have those advantages. So you
right,
have to get creative, and they're not creative. You know what I mean? They're trying to run a standard offense because they got one of the best QBs to do it, and you need more. It's like who's he throwing to? Who's running the
right.
ball? Yeah. So that's an interesting things. But I feel like that's the Jets because look at Sam Darnold once he's gotten out of there.
Yeah,
I just think as a franchise, they have some soul searching to do over there a little
Right.
bit.
It's some sort of curse.
Literally. And plus you're in New York, which is, a step above Chicago as far as the media and everything you got to deal with.
Right. One of the worst
Um,
places for any sort of thing going on.
yeah, I would say Chicago's way up there,
Yeah.
but um, just based on this year so far and how much the sky was falling immediately,
Yeah.
for us, a couple losses in. But I think that's, you know, the way it goes in those big city markets.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
going to have some of that. Um, so with that being said, let's get into it. The first game, or our week 5 game, was the Carolina Panthers game. Um, it, I mean, we really got gelling on all three phases. Obviously, we like to see a big win. Everyone's talking crap because Carolina Panthers, and they're kind of at the bottom of the league, but they did beat Las Vegas at home. Andy Dalton's, you know, uh, he's not. I would say he's looking better than Bryce Young looked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're not as they're not a great team, no, not at all. But it gave us an opportunity to get the ball moving, and you know, uh, I think we needed that
Yeah.
compared to the last few weeks. It's building week to week, though, is it not?
Yeah. I feel like it is. The
And the
flow
only
of the
game,
offense is.
yeah, exactly, and the defense has been there.
Yeah.
Um, I was just going to say the one game right now that we've lost that we said we were going to win is only that Indianapolis game. Titans, we thought there was a win there. I had Houston as a loss, and then Indianapolis as a loss, and then I had Rams as a loss, and that was a win,
Yeah.
right? So uh, it feels pretty good. And we're the only division in the league with everyone over 500 currently. So
Yeah.
that just says something about the talent level, I think, in our division.
Yeah. It also says that the back half for Stevens is going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. We start running into those that don't know or haven't checked the schedule. That's when we start matching up against the our own division, and that's kind of where it really ramps up. We have the Jaguars next week. Then we go into bye. Then Washington, which has showed them to be a pretty good team.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, who's hasn't been a slouch this year, and then we go into Patriots and start our NFC North battles from there. So we do still have some time to get it together even better, and hopefully we can stay healthy. But that Carolina game, it was 36-10. Caleb was 20 for 29, 304 yards. Kind of already setting a new standard for rookie QBs, especially in the Bears. I mean, that bar was really low anyway. 2 touchdowns, 126.2 passer rating. And the numbers I really like seeing is DeAndre Swift, 21 carries, 73 yards. The Roshan Johnson had 10 carries, 25 yards. So, like we were talking, getting more and more. He's not getting a ton of yards, but he's taking a little bit of load
Well,
off of DeAndre Swift. It's
yeah.
different speed, right?
And two of those were from the one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, he was kind of just getting that junk stuff, trying to get us a
Yeah.
little bit of room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like I I like how good it feels because it's like I mentioned to you, it feels way more sustainable the way the offense is than kind of the first couple passing 50 times and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And one thing that kind of sticks out to me too is the Caleb Williams one sack for 8 yards, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's kind
yeah,
of
that's huge.
a nice thing to see as well because it's kind of been
Most definitely.
back and forth lately.
Um, they had 39 rushes for 128 yards. So 29 pass attempts to 39 rush attempts. I like it being skewed more towards rushing. But
Yeah.
again, I know how the game dictates that. If you're leading, you're definitely going to have more rushes. The one thing I will say, they brought Tyson Badgett out to not hurt Caleb's numbers when he had to down it at the end there, the victory
Yeah.
formation. They didn't want to put that on Caleb's, because it's a loss of yards or whatever. Um, so they made Tyson take those loss. So he had 3 rushes for -4 yards, and those were just kneel downs. Of course, passing, love to see it. DJ Moore, a couple hookups for those 2 touchdowns, the longest one being 34 yards. He had 8 targets with 5 receptions for 105 yards, so a third of the yards. Man, he's just proven he's one of the elite receivers in the league,
Yeah.
um, regardless of who's passing to him.
Yeah, and
And then
now
Cole Kmet. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
now DJ Moore, and you can kind of see the connection between the two of them. It's fun to see that they're DJ Moore's a little bit more happy, excited because he's getting kind of more used to how Caleb wants the routes run, and Caleb's getting more used to how Moore is running the routes. So it's kind of cool to see that that one throw. That I think it was Moore's second touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
where he threw it inside on the back shoulder. That was pretty like a beautiful throw too, because you kind of have to put that right where it was. Otherwise, either A, Moore isn't catching it, or B, it's an interception.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. That was the play that I've seen cost X all week, just on replay. Like
Yeah.
this, everyone kind of, hey, you've been talking crap. Look at this, Yeah, like you said, that chemistry they're building, and I've heard one of them in an interview talking about, it was just, figuring out each other. Hey, this is when I see this. This is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm seeing, and just understanding that. So,
Yeah.
um, we're throwing a rookie out there, and a lot of players don't have that, don't get the luxury of being that good that quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like I feel more comfortable with him than I did with our past quarterbacks
Yeah.
up to this point. And again, that's just a common man's analysis of what I see. When he drops back, it's like he's going to be, unless he's thrown away, it's like it's pretty safe balls, other than those first couple rookie stuff, trying to force stuff in there. I was going to mention Cole Kmet had 3 catches, 57 yards, averaging 19 yards, and as long as 126 yards. I love Cole Kmet being part of the plan. I think that was important, and that's really kind of one of the factors that's gave us success over the last few games, because he was non-existent the first few games.
Yeah.
Adunze, 5 receptions on 6 targets, which is awesome. So he's getting everything that's coming his way, for 40 yards. So he's getting in the action too.
Yeah.
And then Keenan, I feel like, is working his way back.
Yeah. Isn't it weird to see him as kind of your third option or fourth
It's
option?
insane.
Yeah.
Because, and honestly, Darnell Mooney looks awesome this year in Atlanta. But we always kind of got, it was a knock on the Bears over the last with Justin Fields there. Like, we didn't give him any pieces because Darnell Mooney was not a true number one. And he looks like he might actually be, but still, there was not other pieces, to have so many pieces you don't know what to do with over the course of just a couple of years is amazing. I agree. It's like, and then DeAndre Swift, you also have a receiving kind of that Matt Forte back there again.
Yeah.
Which we haven't had.
Also actually catching the ball.
Yeah, that was the last comment. Yeah. Because we did during practice watch him on the juggling machine not catch a bunch of balls that were 5 feet away from him.
At least 50% of them were not caught.
So it was a bit concerning on his catchability. But if he's out there blocking and stuff, he's a worthy tight end. But he did have 2 catches, and one of them was a pretty long one.
Yeah.
I was like impressed. I'm like, who is that? Oh, what? That's Everett. Because he almost doesn't look like a tight end as far as size on the field versus compared to other guys, And then of course the defense playing lights out, only giving up 10 points. We continue our home winning streak. Javon Dexter currently leads the league for interior lineman sacks.
Yeah.
So that's also a cool factor. But yeah, they weren't moving the ball much at all. Other than that first drive with the long run, which was disheartening because everybody that's not a Bears fan that's watching it that was around me is just like, oh man, you guys can't even stop. Oh yeah, so, and then it was pretty much nothing from there on out.
Yeah. Did you look at the by the numbers this week on the Bears website?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
So
Did you check that out?
yeah,
Was there anything?
I've got it pulled up. So 16
Perfect.
points,
Yeah.
16 points off of turnovers by the Bears, with the two fumbles and then the interception, and the two touchdowns and a field goal. Way better than the first week where we had a bunch of those turnovers and then didn't really ever do anything with them. So it's really cool to see that kind of equaling itself out where the defense is putting a lot of pressure on their offense, and then our offense helps the defense out by turning those into points as well. 126.2 passer rating for Caleb Williams. That is awesome to see. Obviously, he's went up each game, kind of improved. He was 51 to 80 to 106 to 126. So that's really cool to see that go up really steadily. And then the 8 consecutive home games that the Bears have won, as long as active streak in the NFL. And then 0 turnovers committed, which is another awesome thing to see. 11 takeaways generated by the Bears so far this season. That is a crazy number, I feel like.
In 5 games, I mean, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
average, right? You're averaging over 2 a game. I mean,
Yeah.
or at least 2 a game. And if you're turning those into points, that's half of our points right there, right?
Yeah.
Or a little. I mean, we had 36 points this week, but 14 points off of turnovers or whatever it was. You're winning those games because literally it's like you have to win. If you're scoring 24 points a week, you're typically winning.
Yeah. And then 4 sacks by Javon Dexter. And then 10 touchdowns scored by the Bears offense in the last 9 quarters. So that's definitely a increase. And then one for Kevin Byard, just because I like Kevin Byard, is 29 interceptions by safety Kevin Byard since 2017, tied for the most in the NFL during that span, with the Falcons safety Justin Simmons and cornerback Xavier and Howard. And then 11.
That's awesome.
And then 11 consecutive games, the Bears have held their opponents to 21 points or fewer. So,
yeah, and that's the main thing.
Yeah. All those things just add up, though. It's so cool to see that it's kind of clicking.
Yeah. Like the pendulum kind of swinging back the other way with your, that's kind of our one of the things I added to this week's segment of talking about our recap on the game is strengths and weaknesses, because again, I feel like we're building on more and more strengths, and the weaknesses, we're weeding them out,
Yeah.
Like the first couple of weeks, it was like there was no run game. We didn't really get the passing game into rhythm because we had no run game, but our defense was, hanging us in there. And kind of the same thing in week 2. Really, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit in that game. And then just had some miscommunications on the last drive, which we were in the game and could have possibly taken to overtime or won the game, depending on the situation. So really, I think the strengths we have right now, obviously our defense, right? We're stopping the run game. You can't really run against us. Andy Dalton, which again isn't a top tier quarterback by any means, but only threw for 136 yards, averaging 4.9 yards a pass last week. So you're not going to move the ball very much on us passing in that case. And then running, other than one long run, which was 38 yards for that Chupa Hubbard. So we pretty much slowed the run down all day. They had 19 team rushes for 120 yards, but that one rush was, a third of it.
Yeah. Which has been our weakness on that defense, is that interior rush is kind of here.
Yeah.
It can be
and opening drives.
Yeah.
Opening drives, people walk on us a little bit, and then we get it figured out and slowed down. So that's I think our weakness is as far as defense goes, is like you said, getting gashed in the center, up the middle, and then of course those opening drive, letting them kind of, I think it's the defense figuring it out. It's like, okay, this is what they're going to try to do.
Yeah.
And we kind of shut those things down.
Right.
As far as strengths go, I mean, I am on defense. It's the secondary seems to be the outside pass rush. I mean, Montez Sweat he's getting penetration all the time.
Yeah. Being double
whether he's getting
and
yeah
still getting through.
Yeah, which obviously is Bears fans good to see because we love our defensive players kind of making a name for themselves. Offensively, I think our real uh, weakness right now seems to be that like those screen passes and stuff. We just can't get a good screen game going. Not that any team really does all the time.
Right.
Uh, I think Chiefs do it pretty good. A couple of the top tier teams. Um, and then of course, wish we were running the ball more.
Yeah.
Um, as far as more designed, uh, gadget kind of run plays and stuff instead of the kind of obvious, you know, um, stack the side with a couple
Right.
tight ends and make it obvious kind of stuff. So
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised. Like, where's Vallis Jones Jr.?
yeah, after that first kick the ball to the other team,
Yeah,
he has not been on the field since that I've seen.
and Herbert, to be honest, too. Like, I don't know where either
Uh,
of those players really are.
Not even in like junk time.
No, it's kind of
Like
shocking.
obviously we haven't had much junk time to that point yet, but uh, yeah, you haven't seen him. You didn't see him last week. I don't. You gotta play better, man.
Yeah, and so yeah, I I've been loving it because once we get this run game going, like this offensive line is having fun. Bill
Yeah,
Murray is great. He's playing awesome.
yeah. I love when a situation arises for a guy to show out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
especially a guy that's been like on the
Um,
practice squad most of his career.
and he's looking for people to block after
Yeah,
he's coming off a block. So I love it.
I
Yeah,
saw one play he did. He like blocked like three different guys because he's just
yeah,
running back and forth, just pushing them back to the ground.
yep. So I mean, as far as Bill Murray, I'm saying, is he in the place of Nate Davis then, or
He is left guard, right? So who is
left
that?
guard is Tevin Jenkins?
Yeah, because Tevin
And,
Jenkins was
and
thrown out. That's right.
as usual, we have not gotten
Yeah,
a full season on Tevin yet, so
but Bill Murray
which
kind
is
of
kind of
filled
the
in.
issue.
So,
Yeah, he's looking good.
and honestly,
And again,
Nate Davis really hasn't been a problem that I've noticed. You got Wright, who's done pretty well. You know, they work
yeah,
out those kinks, but that's what we were all waiting for. Is everybody just wants to say, yeah, but your line sucks, your line sucks. And I was one of those good people that was like, yeah, our line sucks right now. But also, none of them have played together and they needed cohesion.
well, yeah, and they did suck because I
Yeah,
mean there was literally plays where they were all laying on the ground. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like
That
you're
was
not
also
doing your job.
with also like awful, awful play calling.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I think you're right and say they were crap, but to that point, like you said, Nate Davis was not there the whole time. Tevin Jenkins is in and out of, getting, he's not getting necessarily get in there on every snap. They're trying multiple different centers, so you never knew if it was going to be one or the other. Um, yeah, so I think uh, now we're getting, like you said, their continuity is getting there. They're
Yeah,
feeling each other out.
way less penalties, way
Yeah,
less penetration where Caleb was having to run around like crazy. I mean, like I said, you're still getting a couple of those things, but they are
yeah.
progressing almost as much as Caleb is every week, and that
It
is great to
stopped
see.
being the biggest weakness on our offense, the
Yeah,
line. It
yeah,
definitely did. And I agree. I think play calling was definitely an issue. But it's like it doesn't matter with play calls. You guys shouldn't be laying on the ground,
yeah,
right? For those certain plays. I mean, there's going to be plays where they get blown up, and but yeah, I think one of the great things is there's some accountability. I mean, obviously they all sat down and was like, "Dude, we're not. That did not look good," you know.
yeah.
Um,
It,
because I mean, against that Colts team especially,
yeah,
we just shouldn't have looked as bad as it did.
yeah. It would have been tough for us. I think week one, week two, Chicago Bears for this year. It would have been tough for us to beat the Panthers with Andy Dalton. Like I think it would have been tough just because it'd be tough for us to beat anybody with week one, week two Bears this year. Like they
Yeah,
just had zero cohesion. Caleb kind of looked like he was lost, as a rookie does. Like I'm not batting like throwing shade or anything. It just as a rookie does, and then you also have a line that just had zero cohesion. That was just letting everybody through. The only bright spot literally the only thing me and you had to talk about was the defense. There's all we
Yeah.
could talk about was they played great. The defense played awesome. That's pretty much all it was, and we weren't running the ball. There was zero effort to like your offense. You want to build those plays to like your run should be supporting your pass, and your pass should be supporting your run. Not we're gonna pass it here, might run it here. There's no setting up the next thing. It's just kind of thrown in there together. So it's cool to see that they're kind of clicking, and you can kind of see all these things coming together.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it too. I mean, especially since I felt like, man, we're gonna watch another elite defense just get wasted
Yeah,
by being out there 90% of the game, But again, that's where kind of Caleb has won me over as far as a quarterback goes because I just being an observer, I feel confidence in him
yeah,
because I've seen growth week to week, even in those kind of there's already adversity. They were already like calling for his head, in Chicago. People were like, "Oh, he's a buzz. Look
yeah,
at Jaden Daniels." Um, and I think there's been some complaints from other squads about Shane Waldron and stuff. So I think him taking some accountability is awesome too, because I think that is part of the problem with like Nathaniel Hackett and some of the other offensive coordinators. They don't want to look at the big picture,
yeah,
that it can't be me, it's the talent, or
yeah,
it's you're not getting prepared right. Well, no, sometimes this is you ain't calling the right plays, man.
yeah. And it's cool that he brought all those offense pieces in. I was like, okay, how should we be running the offense? Because obviously what I'm
Yeah,
doing isn't working, and that's a very cool kind of perspective
yeah.
picture to see.
And put it on the board. Hey, this is the stuff that works. Okay, how can we build off that now?
Yeah,
Because like you said, you run to get some passes going, and you pass to get some runs going. Depending, and you can depending on how the game's given it to you, man, you can do doing all sorts of play actions and RPOs, and it gets really interesting once you kind of honestly, when I'm playing Madden, that's what I do. I like running kind of one scheme and running 3 or 4 plays off that same thing,
yeah,
because the defense is like, oh, okay, it's another run coming, well,
yeah,
this time I'm passing off of it, or whatever.
right.
Um,
And then it's cool to see. Oh, now I lost what I was gonna say. Oh, where instead of like, and I've been hounding on this, but instead of just running DeAndre Swift like any other running back, where he's just up the middle, it's cool to see. Okay, these outside screens aren't working to DJ Moore and stuff. Maybe we go back to the preseason thing that everybody was just so excited about, and the little shuffle pass to Swift where he runs
yeah,
40 yards because he's been doing it every game. Every time you do it, there's at least one time he freaking breaks out with this crazy, uh, stupid screen thing that shouldn't work, but it
yeah,
does. And it works way better than the screens where you're trying to throw it out to Gerald Everett or throw it out to DJ Moore that they kind of see coming. And instead, you're kind of setting up these plays where it's a much more cohesive thing to what we are good at, and I don't know why you don't continue to do those things.
right. Yeah, I think you've been kind of shouting it from the mountaintops since week 2 or so. It's like DeAndre Swift is not an inside runner.
Yeah,
It's
there
like
was a
get him in
crazy.
a
I
if
saw
you
a
get him a
crazy
little bit of
stat.
space, he gets you 50 yards.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's a little bit of space. So I agree completely there. And like I said, he was the third leading receiver as far as yardage goes with 47 yards and only 2 receptions, averaging 23 yards a reception. It's like, what more do you need? You
yeah.
just a couple of those a game and you're good.
There was a crazy stat for last year that was for DeAndre Swift that kind of for me like shows that he's not a inside the interior line kind of runner, and it was some. I'll have to find it and kind of bring it up next week, but he had some like a crazy amount of attempts inside like the 5 for rushing, and like had like very little touchdowns off of it. It was like because he's just not that type of runner, and that's not what
Yeah,
he needs to be doing.
right.
That's
It's
why you
not.
bring
He's not a.
Roshan in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's some what Roshan is though.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't see Roshan catching passes,
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree completely. DeAndre, so I mean, like I said, you've been saying it since week 2. Now that I've watched him several weeks, I agree. I mean, the guy does nothing but get yards if you have a little bit of space and you
Yeah.
get those little bit of screens or the um yeah, that shovel pass during preseason, which is beautiful because it was like almost a no looker.
Yeah.
Um and and then he's gonna run for 50 yards. So yeah, I think you're going to see more of it. I would have to guess just based on now the offense is starting to figure out what works
Hmm.
on a more consistent basis. We're not just trying to survive. We're
Yeah.
actually starting to build. And I think the competition helps. The beat up Rams and then the Panthers, now the Jaguars who like to give up the ball.
Yeah.
Uh, thus far anyway. So that helps them go into bye week, get some healthy, but this line seems to be gelling. So it's like, do we even want Tevin back right now?
Yeah. Right.
Um, especially if he's not going to be there every week. It's like we want the continuity that we have.
Right.
Um, but I do like having depth as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Uh, so after you watch that game, what were your thoughts as far as the overall grade? I'm giving them pretty much an A, not an A plus because of a couple plays here and there, but really that's just immaturity as
Yeah.
a team. I think, especially with the quarterback being young and that. But other than that, I mean, I
Yeah.
needed this win after the Alabama loss
Yeah.
that they took to Vandy this week, so it was a nice win, especially by 26. It was
Yeah.
I
Uh,
could breathe a sigh of relief.
yeah. I'd give him an A too. Like, I feel like an A plus is obviously like everything's perfect, and we're still letting some interior runs through on the defense and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But
right.
definitely an A. Like they played well. I mean, there's not much more you can ask from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. That's what I'm saying. I liked um uh some of the big plays. It's nice to have some big plays because we've been doing some stuff and it hasn't necessarily translated over.
Yeah.
As far as big plays go. The passes were there and they're off the fingertips or whatever. Um, but I did have a couple questions before I go into the our our commercial break here, because there was some overtime. What do you do? You like the overtime rules, or should both teams get the ball regardless? Do you think?
I don't know because like I feel like I'm so used to this one that like the Super Bowl confused the shit out of me when that
Yeah,
happened because that was odd. It was,
yeah.
but I think we should go to like I think the perfect one is college.
I was just gonna say that
Line up at
because I
the
mean,
20
it
and
gets
score
so
it
damn
out.
exciting, right? And then
Yeah,
there's a bunch of scores
yeah,
um, and that's what you want, right?
yeah,
Is scoring. That's what's exciting.
yeah,
I agree. But I just saw some. I mean, there was some walk off stuff. Whatever that this week. The team that got the ball scored a touchdown.
yeah,
It's over. So I wondered that. I would like both teams. I mean, especially if it's that competitive a battle, right? Give them both a shot, and
yeah,
like you said, right from the goal line, and make it easier and easier until one person can't do it no more, and the other
yeah.
can.
And I almost think you could even do it because I think college starts at either 20 or 25. I think you could start at the 30 and still call it good and like shoot it out from there just because. And I think college is after the first one, you have to go for two.
Yeah.
After that, so like it's just exciting. I mean,
Right.
shoot it out until. But I don't think the happy medium is going to what happened in the Super Bowl because that rule is odd. You find out that
Yeah.
they would have continued to have the ball even after the quarter ended, which was weird, and it's just
Yeah.
like a whole weird thing. Like so, that's definitely not it. Don't do
Yeah.
that. But I
Right.
think going
I,
back to the
I
college stuff makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's super exciting in college, so why not
Yeah.
copy that model? Another question is the kind of a situation developing in Indianapolis what is your take on the Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson? If Anthony Richardson's healthy, do you start him again? I mean, this guy had 50% completion, and Joe Flacco was literally leading the league after a week or two, um, comparatively.
Yeah, I think it's tough because I don't think you want another Bryce Young situation where like
Correct.
you're just destroying the kid's ego. Plus,
Right.
we all have to remember that he basically is a rookie. Like Richardson's
Yeah, he had
basically rookie
5 games,
still.
I think, and one of them he was only a half a game, I think, because
Yeah.
he was injured.
So I think
Um,
I think more people need to look at it that way and kind of. But I'm kind of with the. I was listening to. I think it was Bussin' with the Boys, and they
yep.
were interviewing Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning has the most rookie interceptions in a season. And he was like, he jokingly was saying it, but also like kind of serious is as soon as the quarterback doesn't look good and he starts throwing a bunch of interceptions, they pull him instead of letting him learn from it and letting him get better.
Right.
So I think you kind of have to be a little bit on the struggle train of like, yeah, we're not necessarily good right this second, but this is to build longevity in our quarterback that we believe in. Because if
Right.
you start pulling him like a year in, you don't believe in this kid already, like that's pretty crazy.
No, I agree. And we're not even a year in, right? We're
Yeah,
10 games in. So you're not even a full year
yeah,
yet. You still got another 5 to go at least,
right,
really. And he hasn't played 2 of these 5 games. So really he's got 3 games.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a hard situation. It is nice having the Flacco option there.
yeah,
So if he is struggling and, needs to see how it should look, you have that option there. But um, I put on here too, like DeAndre Swift. Do you think he's playing better, or is the play calling better for him?
Uh, both. I think.
Yeah.
I think he is playing better because it's in the style of play that he belongs in.
Right.
So I think, and not all being on him is helpful. Like the first 2 weeks, for some reason, they just wouldn't put Roshan in. That was,
Yeah. And like you said, it was just run him up the middle. It's like, well,
yeah,
he's not going to catch those passes when he's been beat up all game,
yeah,
you know?
and it's
Um,
not his style at all. So it always was confusing. Like why are you not? Why are you not running the play calling that's for him? Like that's I think one of the important things. Like especially with Eberflus being a defensive guy, like this offense is all yours. Like this is your offense. So you
yeah.
need to like control this team, realize the pieces that you have. I get you're not making necessarily all the decisions on the players that you get as an offensive coordinator like you would want to if you were the coach. Um,
Right.
but you got to learn the guys that you have and build off of those. Like you've got great pieces. You've got Keenan Allen. You've got DJ Moore. You've got Rome Odunze, who's really showing out to be a really good player. Cole Kmet,
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift, and now Roshan Johnson's also showing up and kind of showing that he's a good supportive role. Like learn those players that you have and learn kind of their cohesion levels. Like Allen is your sure-handed, other than week one where he dropped that freaking ball, but
Yeah.
sure-handed veteran wide receiver that obviously isn't going to get you all those yards he used to get, but also you really need a big play, and he's there for you. And DJ Moore and Odunze kind of Odunze really is to me looks a lot like DJ Moore. They play a
Yeah.
lot like the same style. So like
Yeah.
let those be your deep guys and your exciting play guys and let Swift do the little things that he does well. We really need to focus more on that.
For sure. I think too, I mean, just in my opinion, I don't have anything as evidence as far as, but I think Keenan Allen hasn't been 100% this whole season.
Yeah,
Just having watched Keenan Allen. So I think as he gets healthier, you'll see better and better Keenan
yeah,
Allen. But he also is an injury prone wide receiver. You're
yeah,
probably not going to get, well, obviously we're not going to get a full season out of him anyway, because he lost a couple games there. But I think he's not 100%. It helps him being out there because you got to put a guy or two on him or shade somebody, his direction possibly. But he's when he's at his peak, he's an elusive receiver. So, but to your point, 6 receivers on 20 passes. So you're spreading it around, right?
yeah.
That's really what it takes as far as passing game goes. Because it's like, who's it going to get it?
Right.
Obviously Moore is getting the bulk of the load, but if Dunze is getting in there, then you can start kind of offloading some to him. If they got DJ, getting doubled, and then Cole Kmet kind of gets. He always seems to be clutch. He gets those clutch first downs. It's like there he is, just somehow semi wide open.
Yeah, I mean,
For the
as an opposing defense, like you can't have your safety floating over one specific guy on this
right.
offense, especially now that Caleb is clicking and kind of learning what he needs to be doing in the game and not trying to do too much. Like you can't double team like one particular guy because it's going to leave one guy wide open, and there's too many weapons on this team for that.
Right. Yeah, especially as they gel, because all those weapons are going to be more and more potent, lethal weapons. I feel like. Well, that being said, let's get to the next thing. I'm going to thank one of our sponsors. Then we will go on to the expectations for the Jaguars game. If you're all about expressing yourself through what you wear, then you got to check out Dead Threads. They got the most wicked collection of t-shirts that scream individuality. Want vintage vibes with your favorite team? Dead Thread has a tee for every vibe and every occasion. Whether you're chilling at home, hitting the streets, or even hosting your own podcast, make sure you check out Dead Threads and tell them Barely Maintaining sent you. So we're off to London. Actually, the guys are already in London, luckily, and the Jaguars got delayed because of Hurricane Milton. So we got a day up on them in London already.
Although it is basically their home stadium.
It is, but it is a home game for us. Yeah. So if we beat them, our home game winning game streak continues. And then we go on the road for a couple games. The one thing is we face the Patriots, Packers, Vikings at home. So we get a 3-game home stretch after that road stretch. So that helps too, kind of facing those division teams at home. Mm-hmm. I feel like, and of course I'm biased, obviously emotionally attached to the Bears. I feel like the Vikings are going to hit a wall at some point. You have to face adversity. You have to come from behind, which they haven't really had to do. And how's Sam Darnold when that happens? We've seen what happened to Justin Fields when he has to play from behind over the last couple of weeks, and he is getting sacked for -20. So it's an early game. Got to get up early, which kind of makes it so you get your whole Sunday afterwards. Yeah. It's weird.
And football all day after that.
I will say though, I lived in San Diego for 10 years, and the game started 10:30.
Yeah.
On Sunday, you know what I mean? So it's similar to that a little bit. Obviously earlier than that.
For like this game, right?
What's that?
That's like 6:30 for this game, right? Yeah, 2 hours.
Correct. Yeah.
Dang, that's early.
Really early. That's what it is. I think it's 10:30. I think it was 8:30 on Sundays if you're in Hawaii.
Jeez.
Sometimes the games start. Just think about your whole football day is over by like 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It must be nice, especially since the last game was like delayed because of weather. And I'm watching the Steelers play at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, why am I doing this? So what do you think about this game? What do you want to see more of? Obviously, kind of more of, like you said already, right? Passing to Swift out in the flats, or some of those outside runs. More Roschon up the middle. Yeah. Of course, I'd like to see Keenan Allen get a little more if he's healthy.
Yeah.
As far as the passing goes.
I think this game ends up a lot like last week, to be honest.
Yeah.
Jaguars do not have much. Like Trevor Lawrence looks like he's struggling this year. Their defense isn't great. I mean, they let up a lot of points for everybody, which is great for a rookie quarterback that is finally clicking and stuff, and should be.
Yep.
I think this game should be a pretty manageable game.
Yeah, I don't know what the Jaguars' real strengths are. I know that the one game I watched this year, it looked like I know they got blown out. I'm pretty sure they benched. Well, they didn't really bench Trevor Lawrence. I think he was just on the sideline at one point because they were just losing. He never looked comfortable. He doesn't look comfortable at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's coming off injury or he doesn't in the line or whatever, but it does bode well for us. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up some of the rankings and see where they're at.
Their stats.
Because that might help. I'm not really too familiar. I just don't feel like I feel like we always play them pretty um we always play them pretty strong anyway. I don't feel like the we've lost to the Jaguars a few times and played them very much, have we?
No, not I don't, not as of recently. It doesn't feel like.
Let's see here.
So they're 1-4.
Yeah, so
They
they're in trouble. They got to get busy if they want to.
yeah.
So I don't know if that means them playing us harder or anything necessarily, but um,
Last week was their highest scoring game against the Colts. From there, I mean, 24-20, 47-10, 18-13 against the Browns, 20-17. So it just seems like they should be able to handle them pretty easily because their defense lets up a lot of points too when there's a decent offense on the other side of it.
yeah, and they're got as far as the offense goes, they're kind of right in the middle of the pack. They're right above us actually. We have a better completion percentage. They have a few more yards passing than we do. Um, they have 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. We have 5 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Yeah, their numbers don't stand out. I mean, honestly, I feel the only reason that we have a little bit less numbers than them is because of the first couple games,
Yeah.
not really the last couple games. Uh, yeah, Jaguars vulnerable, even though London is kind of their home field advantage. If there
Yeah.
is an advantage there, you know what I mean? No one's ever complained. Have you heard about like the fields over there? Because they play on this one. I don't. The ones that they complained about, I think, were down in the South America, right?
Yeah.
Or
That one was the bad one. But
yeah,
Uh, I don't think I've heard like ever anything super bad. Because they also have to be good because they play in soccer fields.
yeah,
So those, I
right,
mean, most of those guys have pretty good fields.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, these are one of the places a couple of the fields. Most of the fields that they have over there, like very sacred
Yeah.
places. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're very well manicured. Versus, I don't know how the South American or other countries. That's their main thing in England. So they probably take a lot of pride in it. So yeah, I'm picking the Bears. I'm gonna say I was way under on the score for this
Yeah.
Carolina game. I believe in the pick 'em. But I'm gonna say that we get 28 points to their 17. Um, and Trevor Lawrence throws 2 interceptions.
I'm gonna go.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'll say 31 17. So I think.
Nice.
Yeah. I think.
Honestly, if they keep it going, that shouldn't be too difficult,
Yeah, and
especially if there is some turnovers.
their defense seems to let up a lot of points, and like you said, if they keep it going, like I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that. Um, because we have so many weapons that are just clicking right now, and um, yeah, I think it should be. I think we should be able to handle that.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, comparatively. But I know how these games go.
Yeah,
It's still going to be a hard fought battle. It all depends on how the game starts. Um, like we did last week, we kind of were unsettled on defense. They scored, and then it kind of from there stabilized, and
yeah,
which I liked because that felt like maturity, right? It didn't matter. Okay, you scored. Now we're
yeah,
going to go out and we're going to score, and then we're going to stop you. And we did. We got right back into it.
yeah.
Um,
And
so that's.
Jaquan Brisker looks pissed.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I was going to mention. We had a fourth and 1 and turned the ball over. And the next play, Jaquan Brisker damn near murdered somebody
Yeah.
and made him fumble. And he's in concussion protocol because of that, I believe.
Did he play
So he
more
did
in the
not
game
try.
though?
Huh?
Didn't he play
I'm
more
pretty
in
sure.
that game?
Yeah, he played the rest of the game, I'm pretty sure. But he's in concussion protocol currently. Did not go to London, but he still might clear and go. He might be able to still play.
Yeah.
So he's not for sure out, but yeah, Brisker's having himself a season, in my opinion. He's got a chip on his shoulder that he's not defensive player of the week. He keeps getting overlooked. Haven't heard a word of Jalen Johnson because no one's catching anything on his side.
Yeah, I have a stat about that actually. For Jalen Johnson, he's had 17 targets towards him, 2 interceptions out of those, 2 pass breakups, and he's allowing a 33.1 passer rating when they're throwing his direction. So they're just not.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, no one's catching anything over there. So,
over 5
games, and Tyreek Stevenson's been playing his mind out. I mean, so the other side's not like it's wide open either.
Yeah, I love to see all the different attitudes that are kind of coming together. Jalen Johnson's kind of that silent killer that is just good, and he kind of knows he's good, and he kind of just hangs out over there, and nobody passes it to him. Jaquan Brisker's take your head off kind of player. Stevenson's a get inside your head type of player because he loves to get inside of people's freaking heads and get them pissed off and stuff. And then you got Byard as a safety as well, who's just that smart player that just does the little things. And then Jonathan Owens, who's kind of one of those smart players too, that'll also put hit on. And it's just one of those like kind of underrated players that's just kind of got that like dog mentality of like just kind of doing the right things. Although I will say that ball hit him right in the hands and he just dropped it.
Yeah, he knew.
I think he got so shell shocked that it was just fell into his hands. It just was like, oh.
I always say too, that's why you're on defense. You know what I mean? It's like, but yeah, that's it did hit him right in the hands, and he knew. He's like, oh, could have ended right there. But one of the new segments I want to do this week is start bench cut, and that was my question for you. Is start bench cut Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, and Jalen Johnson. Trying to make it as difficult as possible. Who you'd keep, who you'd cut. Yeah. These are our 3 starters in the back end. Safety Jaquan Brisker, safety Kevin Byard, who is new to the team, and then you have our cornerback Jalen Johnson. Obviously, all these guys we want to start them. Yeah. They all are starting, but so it's kind of like, who's your top guy? Who's your second guy? Who's your third guy in that lineup?
Jalen, I feel like, is my top guy.
I agree.
And
because he seems to be right now a generational cornerback.
Yeah. But
kind
he
of
doesn't
top
get
5
talked
guy.
about like them.
No.
Which is so weird.
Not at all. Yeah. Really, I think a lot of it is just no one's catching over there. It's just like there's nothing happening. Half the time they're not even passing over there.
Yeah. 17 targets through 5 games is crazy.
It's very Revis Island-ish, you know?
That feels like nobody's like literally there's just 0 throws thrown.
They're not even looking over that way.
Right.
5 games, 17 targets.
Yeah.
That's 3 targets a game.
Yeah.
You know, a little over 3 1/3 or 2/3 or so. But yeah, so I mean that's like what? That's nothing.
That's like Gerald Everett's average.
So who's your second guy in that group then? I guess Jaquan Brisker or Kevin Byard?
Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
I think, don't get me wrong, Brisker, like, obviously I want starting. Like, they're all 3, like, great choices. But I think I don't want Brisker's recency bias to kind of throw me because Kevin Byard is a great safety that is very well, like, he's 29 interceptions since 2017, like, those type of things. Like, he's a great safety that's also one of the
again not talked about.
One of the smart veterans that is there to help your team too.
Yeah, and kind of under the radar, which is fine. You know, I think it kind of benefits him to not be on the radar a little bit, but
kind of
hard hitter.
A lot of 06 Bears that there just was a lot of who the hell is this guy?
Exactly.
Just,
like the name O.C. Miniora.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a hard hitter. I do like him. I loved Eddie Jackson, but he seems to be a a better safety than Eddie Jackson in his last
Yeah.
couple of years, as
'Cause
far as the tackling and stuff.
I feel like you could go through a whole defense and say pretty much about every player that guy's not really talked about, like Kyler
Yeah,
Gordon.
right. Yeah, yeah. That's what we haven't mentioned. Kyler Gordon. There's
Edwards and
of course
Edmonds. Like,
Jonathan Owens, who's a second stringer.
yeah,
But Jonathan Owens, I see him, out there. Um, Jack Sanborn,
yeah,
another one. And then
the
of
whole
course
linebacking core.
the defensive ends. I mean, we got Demarcus Walker, Austin Booker, then Daniel Hardy is also coming up. And
I
that's
feel like
that's third stringer.
I feel like the only player you can be like, oh yeah, he gets his recognition is Montez Sweat,
Yeah, right.
and that's literally the
Um,
only person I can
and
think of that
it's
gets talked about much.
I think if they keep going though, you'll start
Yeah,
monster the midway. You'll get some of that, especially as we get into some of the later in the season games. We have a Thanksgiving game against Detroit, which Detroit always seems to lose somehow, even when they're good.
yeah,
We got some primetime games, Minnesota in primetime. So those are kind of when you make a name for yourself, right? I didn't know any of these really Seahawks players until I was watching the game tonight, and seeing kind of some of the things they got going on. They were battling with the 49ers when last I checked.
yeah.
So with that, let's hear your this week's pick'em games. What do you got?
All right, so Michael, you moved up to 9-11, which we both went 1-3 last week. Yeah. You had the Falcons winning. I had the Buccaneers winning, so you took that game. And then I had the Cardinals winning, and you had the 49ers winning, so I took that one. The other two, we both had Steelers and Saints, and surprisingly, both of them lost. And yeah, but I'm 11-9. You're 9-1, so you're definitely closing the gap. But this week we're gonna do Chargers at Broncos.
Oh man. Emotionally, I want to pick the Chargers, but I'm going to pick the Broncos because their defense has been really good.
Yep.
And Bo Nix has seemed to put it together. At least, I mean, he's good enough. You're going to have some controversy there, though, with that quarterback and that coach, I bet you.
Yeah.
There's something coming.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I like the Broncos too. Riley Moss got his first interception, so that's pretty sick.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, very cool.
Good to see Iowa white corner getting his pick. Cooper's also starting this week at corner. So
awesome. So maybe the second white cornerback pick this since
but
the 80s? I don't know.
The Chargers defense kind of seems to be struggling, and so does their offense. So I think the Broncos are kind of on their up, and Chargers are kind of holding steady where they're at, and so I think they're going to get the win. Next game is Bills at Jets.
Bills at Jets. I'm going to go with the Bills. They got to get it back in line. They were looking like the best team in the league for the first few weeks and kind of fell off. It didn't look like they could move the ball at all.
Yeah.
So I think I'm taking the Bills because the Jets are, wow, what are the Jets? We don't even know now.
Right.
They're starting over, right? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle that situation. They have Aaron Rodgers, but man, they just kind of unstabilize themselves, and they were losing with stability. So
yeah,
we'll see. I'm gonna say the Bills right the ship this week.
Yeah, I want to pick the Bills, but I feel like this is gonna be one of those weird situations where Aaron Rodgers got his way, and the interim coach is gonna come in and be his best friend because it's not the coach that he didn't want, and this is a game that they win for some reason.
And it's did a little Brees Hall up the middle the whole game.
Yeah, and Alan Lazard screens.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's all you really got to do. They got a pretty decent defense.
Isn't it weird?
And the Bills are vulnerable.
Yeah, isn't it weird that we still really don't know if Garrett Wilson or really any of that draft class is good wide receivers?
Yeah, no clue.
Because
it's like I want him to be good.
Yeah.
I feel like he could be.
That was
and sometimes he runs these routes. It's like, dude, why aren't you catching all this stuff?
that was the draft class with like Garrett Wilson and Drake London and stuff. It was like supposed to be like one of the best receiving classes, and then it kind of like
Yeah,
fell. We don't know if any of those players are good.
right. But then it's like the guys that, then you have like guys like Adam Thielen and stuff, like I don't care about drafting wide
Yeah,
receivers as much, but Odunze seemed to be a good pickup so far. Um,
yeah.
what else you got?
Colts at Titans.
Colts at Titans. I'm going to go with the. Oh. I was just going to like whatever came to me, and it was like both of them. Don't pick either. I'm going Colts. I just can't trust Will Levis, man.
Yeah, and
I can trust him for a new meme.
Yeah,
but...
he's so good at that for some reason. It's really odd. It's like he's actively trying. It's so weird.
Yeah. It's like you don't know that there's cameras on you.
Yeah, just on his knees, just.
It's like in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I have Colts winning if Anthony Richardson doesn't start.
Caveat.
Yeah.
Depending on QB here. Flacco gets it done. Anthony Richardson gives it away. Yeah, I think
but Will Levis isn't starting either, right?
Is he benched?
I think he might be hurt still.
Oh yeah, that's right. They brought in someone and he was cheering him on like he was like the best backup ever.
Yeah, he's just so weird.
He's like,
he's just like
you're trying too hard, bud.
Yeah. And I've heard
they like you. It's okay.
Yeah,
You're their quarterback. You don't have to.
Like players are like he's trying too hard at everything, and it's just weird.
Yeah, maybe lay off the mayonnaise, bud.
Yeah. I'm looking up really quick to see if.
Yeah, I was gonna go with like my natural instinct, and no natural instinct actually came for either of those teams. It's like I don't trust Will Levis or really whoever, and of course I do not trust Anthony Richardson for sure. I mean, he's got a heck of an arm, but it ain't accurate.
Yeah. Both.
So it's like it doesn't matter if you can throw 75 yards if no one's there to catch it. What the hell does it matter?
My mind just immediately goes to no, skip this game. It's good. We're good.
Yeah. Do not put money on this game. It's going to end in a damn tie.
I can't find anything that says he's not starting, so Will Levis. So. Whatever, I guess. It's weird, but...
We don't want to start him, but he's going.
We have no better options, which is sad.
We're making a ton of money on the back end with these memes, so...
Tannehill? Who's still going to be a Titan?
He's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commanders at Ravens for the last game.
I'm picking Ravens. I feel like the Ravens were a better team than most of the teams that they actually lost to. That one game against the Chiefs, there was a foot on the line, and yeah. And I mean, they are doing a great. Not Jaden Daniels has been a good quarterback, but they're also like scheming up for him. So with a little bit of tape watching, I feel like that Ravens defense can slow him down a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess it's the big test, right? We'll see who he really is this week.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Commanders.
Finally, the comparisons will stop if he comes back down to earth a little bit.
I'm gonna go Commanders. I think they've been playing good football.
I mean, honestly, there's no reason to not go with them other than I think the Ravens are more experienced.
I think
they've just been there,
toughest games to pick, and the fact that both teams are decent teams.
Yeah.
It's not one of the.
I just like that the Ravens have been there every year for the last 5 years, and Washington, this is like we just got a new owner. We're like looking at,
Yeah.
But they're contenders, obviously. I mean, you don't go this long. They lost one game in the first game, and they've won everything since. You know what I mean? Right. So that you don't really do that unless you got your shit together.
Right.
Is that all the pick'ems?
Yep, that's the 4. We have potential to change 2 games, so we'll see who wins those.
Nice.
The other 2 we're kind of even on. So.
Did you have a player stat trivia this week?
Yes, I do. I got a couple of them here, but.
So we're gonna do something different and just give you player stat trivia. Let you try to guess as far as the listener, and then we'll come back next week, and Ryan will have the answer. I'm also going to try to guess. I'll keep it to myself, and then I'll come back in next week with my after I do a bunch of googling and.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But it gives you a little bit of interaction, and you can see. Plus, I'm going to start guessing wrong all the time, and I don't want to look bad. So
This is all about you looking better.
seriously.
All right, first one.
So what do you got?
Who's that bear? Played at William and Mary College. Was undrafted in 2020. It's been on 2 NFL teams. Has been a practice squad man most of his career. Plays offensive lineman, but in college was a defensive lineman and had 143 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, 19 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles.
That's a good one, man. Yeah, gonna have to do some reading on that. That's Stumper.
Yeah.
Ryan's really good at finding these, man. Currently on the Bears?
Yep.
Just as a hint? Okay.
Next one is played at West Virginia. First team All-American in 2014. Pick 7 in the 2015 draft. Was on 4 NFL teams. In college, they had 1,954 reception yards with 15 touchdowns. And has 2 brothers who also played at West Virginia, and one that is currently playing linebacker at the Cardinals.
Mm.
And the last one here, who's that bear? University of Texas, played quarterback in high school with 7,710 passing yards, which is first in his high school's records. 4,900 rushing yards, which is second in his school's record books. Moved to running back in college because of injuries on the depth chart. In college, they had 2,190 yards, 23 touchdowns, 128 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns for receiving. And it's been on 1 NFL team.
Very good.
Just as a, think you know any of them?
Yeah, I think I got a couple of them. Yeah.
Okay.
But I got thrown off a little bit on that second one because I thought I had it, and then he threw a couple other facts there. I'm like, oh shit, that's not it. Going back to 2015 though, it's like, jeez, that's in football years. It's like 700 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was
He's like, there's.
One thing I was looking up the other day is when Matt Forte was on the Bears, because for some reason I kept thinking he was like the early 2000s running back.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
to find out he's actually more recent than I thought and remember him to be. I think it was he was all the way up until 2013 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 or 13. It seemed like.
Yeah. So I was like, what the heck? That's way later than I remember him being there.
I really wish he would have got a shot.
2008 to 2015. What?
Yeah. Okay. Geez. 2015.
That man and Jordan Howard were almost on the same team.
Yeah, we actually did follow him up with Jordan Howard, huh?
Yeah.
We need to go through the list of running backs and talk about them at some point because there's a bunch that I remember. I mean, I would like to revisit, you know.
Yeah.
Short-lived ones and the ones that were there a little longer, like Tariq Cohen. I mean, there's a few years where he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like 1 year, anyway.
He just, to me, Matt Forte, when I was looking up his year he was there, it's like, for some reason, in my head, I always think he was on the 06 team.
Yeah.
I always no. he was on that Super Bowl team. No.
Who was it? Thomas Jones?
Can't
remember. Or was it Thomas Jones? No, I don't remember.
Good thing Google. Yeah, Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson.
Oh, Cedric Benson. I was like, there's somebody else. There's somebody else. This, old Cedric. Again, there's a bunch of names we could revisit.
Yeah.
But we're over our time now, about 10 minutes over. So that being said, next week we'll try to bring it. We'll try to bring back some more features. We keep talking about a wheel but we never get to it because we never have time because we have a bunch to talk about. But next week we will be wrapping up this Jaguars game, talking about our bye week, what we have coming up. We'll have some segments to talk about in the bye week because, we won't have any football to talk about. As usual, special thanks to Julie Burhite and Lindsay O'Brien. It's been hectic around our households the last couple of weeks with the kids being sick and birthdays and traveling and everything. So appreciate them giving us time. Sweet dreams to Richard Hopkins. And make sure you're checking us out on social medias. Like I always mentioned, Ryan's really good at putting up those videos and kind of showing some experts, some highlights from that week's episode. So you can keep up to date on all things Bears and Chicago. We won't, before too long, we'll have some stadium stuff to talk about. Some playoff baseball to wrap up, even though the Cubs, and of course, definitely not the White Sox.
Yeah.
And then hockey started, right? Are we through the preseason yet?
Yep, we are. Blackhawks dropped their first game against the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, hockey does it weird, man.
Yeah, I think they took over they were like the Arizona team, and Arizona left, and they went to Utah.
Oh, gotcha.
The Utah Hockey Club.
So, what's the most generic name we can think of?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also choose things that have nothing to do with hockey, like the Blue Jackets or Blue Hornets, or isn't that a team?
Columbus Blue Jackets, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Columbus has a damn hockey team. How's that even allowed?
Yeah.
We should get one here in the Quad Cities.
Yeah. I'd be happy for that.
Next week will be episode 14. Be sure to tune in.